Do you feel your energy disappearing out of nowhere, as if someone were silently draining you? These are the invisible symptoms of psychic vampires. And the scariest part, many live around us, but few know how to identify the 6 most common signs. What if I told you that this fatigue, this anxiety, and even your internal doubts might not be yours? There's a pattern behind emotional fatigue, paralyzing shame, and the feeling of insufficiency that keeps coming back. Carl Jung called attention to this. And today, we're going to reveal everything. Pay close attention. Because understanding this completely changes how you protect your mind, your body, and your soul. Some people enter our lives and, without asking permission, drain our peace. But it's not always on purpose. Sometimes, the unconscious is in control. Jung called this projection, when someone unconsciously dumps onto others what they do not want to see in themselves. The vampire archetype represents exactly this. They don't bite your neck, but infiltrate your emotions, draining energy through looks, words, and even loaded silences. And when you realize it, you're already weak. This type of vampire doesn't wear a black cape or flee from sunlight. Often they appear as a friend, boss, relative, or even partner. They're someone who unconsciously activates your oldest internal wounds. That comment that touches precisely on your insecurity, that criticism that reopens the scar of rejection. Before you know it, you're defending something you don't even fully understand, reliving old pain as if it were happening now. It's not about the present. It's about what's still alive in the unconscious. And the most curious thing is that in these exchanges, the vampire leaves energized. You, on the other hand, feel as if you've run an emotional marathon. This drainage happens through psychic transference, an invisible mechanism that connects wound with wound, pain with pain. And no, it's not an exaggeration. Your body feels it, your mind freezes, and your intuition disappears. But can you identify this before your soul starts screaming? The next symptom might surprise you. There are people who come close and seem to take a piece of your soul with them when they leave. You start off feeling good, excited, even confident, but just a few minutes beside this person and your body feels heavy, your mood sinks, and your will to live disappears for a while. The strangest thing is that after the encounter, the other person seems even more animated, as if they've refueled with something of yours. This type of emotional fatigue isn't ordinary tiredness. It's a symptom of psychic drainage, an exhaustion that isn't fixed with sleep or strong coffee. That's when the second symptom begins, the erosion of your self-perception. You leave the conversation not knowing exactly why, but something in you isn't as solid anymore. It starts subtly, a doubt here, a comparison there. And before you know it, you're questioning whether what you feel is real, if what you think makes sense, if it's worth trusting your own intuition. It's as if a fog has replaced clarity, scrambling everything. And this fog, most of the time, isn't even yours. These two symptoms walk together, like silent accomplices. While one drains your strength, the other erodes your internal structure. It's no coincidence. They're the first steps in a larger, almost invisible pattern, but extremely effective at trapping you in a web of confusion and dependence. The worst part? Often the person causing this doesn't know, or knows very well. And the shame that follows is just the next sign that something inside is being attacked. There's a shame that screams inside without making a sound. It doesn't come from an action, a mistake, or a failure. It comes from somewhere deeper. It's the type of shame that doesn't say, "You did something wrong," but whispers, "You are wrong." And then, without realizing it, the person begins to shrink. Stops raising their hand, giving opinions, taking up space. It's as if their very existence were a nuisance. And this, of course, doesn't come from nowhere. It's activated by subtle words, judgmental looks, silences that hurt more than shouts. Soon after comes that strange feeling of not being enough. You start comparing yourself to the other person who always seems more stable, more sure of themselves, more right, period. It's as if, next to this figure, everything about you is too small. Your plans seem fragile, your speech sounds silly, your presence dispensable. This creates an invisible hunger, a neediness that isn't resolved with ordinary affection, because what's been shaken isn't the feeling, it's the structure of your self-esteem. And that's when imbalance begins to set in more deeply, because shame and neediness together create the perfect scenario for you to depend on validation from the very person who drains your energy. And the more you try to please or prove your worth, the further you seem to be from yourself. But the most dangerous part is still to come, when the other begins to shake not just your value, but your identity. That's where the real collapse lives. There's a type of pain that can't be explained with words, but appears between the lines. It's when, little by little, a person begins to feel useless. Their ideas always seem out of place. Their presence doesn't make a difference, and even their speech loses its sparkle. The other person doesn't need to say anything aggressive. A raised eyebrow, a disguised interruption, "we'll see later," is enough to shake someone who's vulnerable. Gradually, self-esteem dissolves, and the worst part? You begin to doubt if it was ever real. The body feels what the mind still tries to ignore. After a conversation or a meeting with someone like this comes a strange discomfort, an anxiety that has no apparent reason, a chill in your stomach that doesn't go away. It's as if something bad had happened, even though nothing has, in fact, happened. The negative presentiment is a clear sign. Your energy system is trying to warn you. Intuition, when not blocked, screams through the body. And that's why certain presences, even without offensive words, leave you exhausted, tense, disconnected from yourself. These physical reactions aren't an exaggeration or drama. They're somatic records of a subtle psychic attack. And when the emotional field is invaded in this way, it's common for a person to begin living in a state of alert, even far from the vampire. But the most dangerous part is still to come. When this pattern settles in the most intimate environment, the one that should be your refuge, that's when the impact multiplies. Now, imagine this drainage happening inside your own home. At Sunday lunch, in the family group chat, in those words full of love. But that always leave you more confused than comforted. When Jung talks about the black sheep archetype, he's pointing to this exact pattern, that member who carries, without realizing it, the psychic contents rejected by others. It's as if someone were saying, with a look, "Only you feel too much. Only you are the problem." And so isolation disguises itself as emotional responsibility. It's common for this vampirism to camouflage itself as affection. Phrases like, "I do everything for you," "Nobody puts up with you like I do," or "You need to change, it's for your own good," hide a game of psychic domination. The person feels guilty for not being able to reciprocate and moves away from themselves, trying to please. Gradually, doubt becomes routine, and vital energy drains through emotional fissures that seem to be just family fights. Blood ties, when contaminated by these patterns, can become an invisible chain. That's why so many people spend years trying to please those who do not want to be pleased. Because the family vampire doesn't need to shout or manipulate explicitly. They suck through the constant need for validation, through veiled criticism, through subtle victimization. And when the person tries to move away, chaos ensues. Emotional blackmail, loaded silences, or even psychosomatic illnesses that try to bring them back. But there are ways to see these tactics clearly, and that's where the turning point begins. The most effective psychic vampires don't arrive with fangs showing, but with smiles and sweet words. A compliment, for example, may seem like a gift, but when loaded with hidden intention, it traps you in a web of emotional dependence. "You're the only person who understands me" might sound like affection, but it can also mean, "If you leave me, you destroy me." And so the compliment transforms into handcuffs. The more you try to please, the further you move from your autonomy. Another subtle tactic is silent intimidation, that look that hurts without saying anything, the silence that hangs in the air, the harmless comment that destabilizes you for the rest of the day. These are small gestures that test the limits of your energy field. It's as if the person were checking how far they can go before you react. And if you don't realize this, you end up giving ground until there's no space left for yourself within yourself. And then comes the most dangerous of all, archetypal seduction. It's not just sexual. It can be emotional, spiritual, intellectual. Someone who envelops you with an idealized image as if they were your soulmate, mentor, or savior. Gradually, you feel small next to the light this person seems to emit, and without realizing it, you surrender your will in exchange for attention. But what if, in reality, this brightness is just a reflection of what already exists in you? As painful as it may be to admit, we all carry within us a spark of this same pattern we so fear in others. The vampire archetype doesn't just live out there, it also breathes in our shadows. Sometimes it appears when we use suffering as currency for attention, other times when we project onto others a neediness we don't want to face. And the most curious thing? The more unconscious it is, the more active it becomes. This force acts behind the scenes of the psyche. When we don't look at it, it makes decisions for us. If you've noticed that you sabotage yourself in relationships, that you demand too much from others, or that you feel a need to control, perhaps this vampire is driving without a license. But the point here isn't guilt, it's awareness. Because when the light of self-awareness enters, unconscious acting begins to lose strength. A good start is to observe the moments when you feed on the energy of others, whether by demanding validation, creating small dramas, or expecting someone to resolve what only you can face. It's not comfortable, but it's liberating. Identifying the pattern is already the first step. Transforming your relationship with it is the turning point. And that's precisely where the journey back to yourself begins, where the antidote to energy theft also resides. Healing begins when we stop fighting the symptom and start listening to what it's trying to say. Recovering your own energy isn't just about moving away from others, it's about moving closer to yourself. When you're centered, present, and calm, the influence of vampirism simply finds no place to attach. But for this, you need to get out of autopilot and cultivate your body as a sanctuary. Want a first step? Ground yourself, walking barefoot, practicing conscious breathing, moving your body with presence already changes the game. A simple but powerful practice is smiling at your heart. It might seem silly, but this internal gesture dissolves invisible tensions, placing your hands over your navel seals, the energy center, and rescues your sovereignty. Do this before difficult conversations, meetings, or encounters that tend to drain you. Mastering your vital space is more than setting boundaries. It's energetically reaffirming that you are whole and not available to be drained. And if you want something even more practical, explore protection mudras, ancient finger gestures that anchor intention and attention. The Abhaya Mudra, for example, with the palm facing outward, communicates to the unconscious, I am safe. Consciousness transforms, but ritualized action anchors this transformation in the body. And when you begin to move like this, with presence and protection, something changes from the inside out. Now that you recognize the signs, the question is, will you continue allowing them to steal your energy, or will you protect yourself? These symptoms aren't coincidence, they are warnings. And when you ignore them, the price is high. Your peace, your clarity, your inner strength. So tell me, which of these signs resonated with you the most? Have you felt this exhaustion after meeting someone? What is your body trying to tell you, but you still don't want to hear? Right here in the comments. Your experience might help other people who are also in silence. If this made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. We'll continue exploring all this together with Jung as our guide. Until the next video.